So liquid natural gas, it's methane, but in the liquid state, it gets there at low temperatures. It's clear, colorless, odorless, non-corrosive. It can contain small amounts of other elements, particularly if it's thermogenically derived natural gas. If it's biogenetic, not so much. When you turn it into liquid natural gas, it occupies 1/600th of the volume, so that makes it very amenable to shipping over great distances in constrained or confined containers. It's not quite as energy dense as diesel, so you need around 2 or more times the LNG for diesel to get the same amount of energy. But it's very safe. It's much safer than propane or diesel, has a higher flash point, and if it's spilled, it just vaporizes. It's not maybe good for climate change and all that, but safe to humans when it spills. It's been around in Canada for a long time as a heating source. Most every home in urban Canada anyways is heated by natural gas. But Canada is only a very small portion of the global LNG market. And why the interest? Well, Canada itself has appreciable natural gas reserves, of course, and it is a replacement for diesel in many applications. And the environmental benefits of reduced greenhouse gases are very real, as are the substantial cost savings. Now, that chart below is a couple of years old, but you can see that the difference between petroleum price in the blue and that in the natural gas in the red is appreciable, and well, it would suggest by that diagram that it might be increasing, but of course current events would suggest that maybe it's not as increasing as it once was. So you can get natural gas through what we call conventional, from oil and gas fields, but there's also unconventional sources. Shallow biogenetics, so this is anaerobic bacteria that create the gas. But you've also got coal bed methane, so the gas is locked up in the structure of the coal itself, or it can be in the surrounding rock, and it comes out in much higher concentrations than you would perhaps think. Tight gas is, as the name implies, it's in a very low permeability rock, typically sandstones or limestones. Shale gas, well, that's the one we're hearing a lot about these days. So that's, in shale, obviously. Again, low permeability, but it's the one that's very not easily, but recoverable through fracking. And gas hydrates is kind of a new kid on the block, but quite possibly has the greatest reserve, whatever, in the world. There's some people speculating that what's in gas hydrates, which is kind of an ice-like lattice crystalline structure that traps the methane inside of it, the resources in that could outnumber all of the resources in oil, gas, conventional, non-conventional. So here's where the different shale plays are, since that's the kind of the topical one. So great opportunity or basins throughout Western Canada. And then the pink or orange blobs are the ones that are more well-defined and have active activity and reserves built around them. So if we're in Western Canada and we have mining properties in the area, certainly it's something that we'd be interested in seeing if we can tap into this. And just some numbers there, I won't go through it all, but Canada is generally ranked in some fashion in the top 10 or 20 of either producers or just reserves of natural gas. So what about getting this stuff to market though? We have it all in the ground, but we don't really have the infrastructure at the moment to get it to market. At the moment, there's no Canadian export LNG projects in operation. Of course, Christy Clark would like to have us go down that road, and there's a lot of stuff in the media these days about maybe how that's not working out so well for Christy these days, but it certainly is something that everybody's got their eye on, and it's not just for export markets. We should also be looking inward for domestic markets to help industry, and particularly mining. But if you were to look at trying to get, this is just a number game, but trying to get 15% of USA diesel fuel consumption converted over to LNG, it would take 106 LNG plants to do that, where there's very few now. So it would be a monumental task. It's something that won't happen overnight. This is now where I hand over to our invited guest. John, you take the stand here. So that advances aside in the laser. Is this
Thanks, Bob and team. G'day, everybody. So we look here at Canada's infrastructure for LNG production. This sort of maps out the existing operations. We focus on Western Canada. What we've got here is Ferris Fuels has the Grand Prairie production facility, and then really Fortis BC. They've got their Mount Hayes near Ladysmith on Vancouver Island facility, which is sort of behind this block here, and then Fortis's existing Tilbury Island facility in Delta, which they are expanding significantly. And there's the Canaport and other existing infrastructure in central Canada. What we see here is a lot of planned projects, and the only ones that are, there's a couple that are worth mentioning here. Shell Jumping Pound, this one is on hold. Shell had made the purchases for all of the capital equipment, but have shelved the plans around that. This is just sort of a highlight. Really the economic model here is a little bit different these days. We're looking here at around $1, maybe a bit more, a liter for diesel. This has softened. Still don't have a really good explanation as to why the drop in price that you see as a consumer at the gas pump in gasoline has come down quite a bit, and the diesel, that relationship hasn't quite been as linear. So diesel right now, talking to a few folks over the last couple of weeks, it depends on where you are in the world and the volumes you're buying in and the duration of which the contract would go, but we're seeing about a 10 to 17% slip from the $25 a GJ price. Around the LNG, this number is actually pretty good for North America, domestic market. I've seen numbers as low as $17 a GJ delivered. And really when we're looking at that delivered price, what goes into it is the pipeline gas and any of that sort of tolling and whatnot, the liquefaction, the physical cooling and condensing of the gas, and then the shipping and vaporization on site. And the numbers here are sort of where we attribute this to. And again, it's the various gas suppliers, depending on whether they're sort of primary supplies coming from a regulated or unregulated environment, does play with some of the numbers. These are just a couple of slides showing some of the abilities and means of transportation and logistics. So we got our cryo containers here, translate over to over the road and to rail. GE's actually been working with our locomotives group. We're a large supplier of locomotives, so we've got LNG ready to go locomotives now. But here we got a tending car behind the locomotive. Again, here's some trucking. We'll see a lot of this. A lot of the waste companies are using LNG and CNG vehicles these days. So you see the garbage truck and the recycling trucks driving around. Most of those guys have all been converted over to natural gas. Storage, this would be what you'd see for storage. A lot of the remote mines that we talk to, LNG can be delivered to GPS coordinates now over the road via virtual pipeline, just trucks taking it in. The mines will take a delivery every day or every other day, and then they'll have these sort of tanks on site to house the LNG. And that's what we've been looking at here. GE has a, this is just sort of a slide from our group, there's other companies as well, where we have these gas engines. The recent project in the news was in Whitehorse with Yukon Energy. So their Yukon Energy Corp had purchased 2 of our J624 engines. So they're rated just under 9 megawatts on natural gas production in Whitehorse. And that gas for them, for that supply, will be coming up through Delta over the road for now. You know, there's lots of benefits around power generation with natural gas. The economics is pretty compelling. The particulate, there's zero particulate with natural gas, and certainly reduced NOx, and the combined heat and power cogeneration plants. So sort of showing that here. As well, that previous slide was reciprocating engines, so you can get into these large aeroderivative gas turbines. Pretty large capacities here for power production, and very, very well known in mining. A lot of the remote projects you'll see in Africa, Southeast Asia, we've got some pretty good numbers where these units are installed. And that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, John. So any questions for John after the paper or during lunch? He's going to be sticking, are you going to stick around for lunch? He'll be around for lunch if you want to ask more detail. So moving back into the mining truck space, there's 2 types of LNG engine systems out there. There's what we call dual fuel. The other one's high pressure direct injection, HPDI, which is the next slide. Dual fuel allows you to have up to 70% replacement rate on the diesel. Typically, we talk though around 50% as standard for that. So you use it for startup and low power, and LNG is actually used when the truck is being worked harder. Caterpillar is working with both technology on their trucks, but also with a company called GFS Technologies that has the what they call the EVO MT retrofit kit, and that's the pictures on the side are from their technology. One thing with dual fuel is that it's an incomplete burn cycle, so there is some residual fuel that does get released. The methane gets released, so that's maybe not good from the environmental perspective. If for some reason you do not like what's happening with your LNG on your trucks, it's easily converted or reverted back to 100% diesel. This is the other one, HPDI. You can have 95% replacement by LNG of the diesel. They have the best environmental aspects. They don't release, they have a full fuel burn, so they don't release excess methane. Right here in Vancouver, Westport is sort of a leader in this space, and they have actually engaged with Caterpillar, for example, to develop some haul truck technology, haul truck engines. So the LNG is capable of doing the same work as diesel, same horsepower. It's not quite, when you put the pedal to the metal, it's not quite as responsive, but that's something that you can work into your productivity determinations. It's the overall cost reduction that's really driving this. You may require additional additives to the oil, the engine oil, to replace some of the things that you might get out of diesel for lubricants, etc. Because it's cleaner burning and doesn't gunk up and all those sorts of things, your maintenance costs are expected to be lower. We have heard from Caterpillar directly that if there's a problem with an LNG truck, it doesn't just automatically a retrofitted LNG truck, it doesn't automatically void your warranties, but bear in mind that there will be investigations just to make sure that it wasn't a cause of any particular problem. Fuel storage is kind of the limiting factor right now with LNG on trucks. Because you need that 2-to-1 volume LNG to diesel, you need more storage, or you have to fuel twice as often for the same size storage. They're trying to target 12 hours of duration between refueling at the moment. So similar to on the trucks, any of the fueling stations would require more tankage, and this is not just standard tankage, it's cryogenic, it's got special requirements, a little more expensive. There are no standards at the moment for any of this, so there's some fear from some that they get into this now, and then there's some standards developed, they would be non-compliant with standards, so that perhaps is a small risk at the moment. Fueling the haul trucks right now is timely, and it's only because technology hasn't really caught up yet. There's no reason that it couldn't. The diesel fuel does not, the LNG fuel does not, I'm trying to think of the word, it's plug up, or there's some aspect that can happen. Oh, there it is. It does not froth like diesel. If you pump diesel too much, it cavitates, it gets frothy, and it limits your flow rate. There's no such thing with LNG. But you're going to have to develop new ways of getting it to a mobile location, just in case you don't want the truck have to always travel to this highly specialized place. This is not a real, this is not a real setup. This is not how they would typically fuel a truck out on a remote site, but it does depict, though, that there would be some challenges in trying to work that out. So what's happening out there in the mining world? I've mentioned Caterpillar a couple of times. They have achieved some pretty high LNG, diesel replacement with LNG. This would be in the HPDI type technology. They are running a couple test trucks out there, one in Arizona, and they've apparently struck a deal with one of the oil sands companies to test a truck up there. I'm not sure if that's underway yet, though. So their focus at the moment is the larger trucks, and they were looking, whether they're still on track for or not, we haven't talked to them in a few months. They were looking for commercial production in 2017. But not everyone's as advanced as Caterpillar, but yet they're going to be close behind, because if this is seen as the next big thing, everyone's going to be part of it. There's one mine in particular, or one company in particular out there that's doing great things in testing this. Alpha Coal West in the Powder River Basin now is converting pretty much their whole fleet at one mine to LNG after a successful pilot. And in fact, GFS Technologies is partnering with another, I might have it as a bullet here, yeah, Plum Energy, to actually put in an LNG plant adjacent to one of their mines, and there's a speculation with future growth it could actually expand to serve other mines in the area. And we understand that there's also a large mine in South America, Chile, I think, that is looking at this technology, and again, the on-tank storage is one of their main issues. And I'm not sure of their current development, but a local miner in BC was working with Fortis to bring LNG in on a trial basis at their mine. I think they're weighing their options. They might look at CNG, which is compressed natural gas. But there seems to be some incentive to work with Fortis at this moment. Don't know how long that'll last, but to get a project in partnership with them, there's big incentives there. So, what's one of the main drivers, as I mentioned at the outset, is this price differential with diesel. And so we've run the numbers to see what does that actually mean. Unfortunately, with what's happening with diesel, it's a bit of a moving target. But based on 50% replacement in haulage trucks, we determined at the prices we had for that study that it was about a 30% savings in haulage costs. So if haulage cost is half of your mining costs, that becomes a significant impact on the overall cost of the operation. It is, however, offset by, you have to do a little bit more on the trucks. Right now, retrofit kits are around $200,000, $250,000 to put in per truck, and then you need that additional storage cost for the tankage and the fueling stations for these things. So we factor in about an extra $2 or $3 million for that. That all aside, it's still, you get the 30% savings. The 20% there is I just factored in, well, what if you took into consideration, something closer to today's price? So it does knock it back a bit, but how long is today's price going to last? It's anybody's guess. And then we got from John some numbers on power generation. So for a small plant, 10 megawatts, 90% duty factor, 43% plant efficiency, and respective prices for LNG and diesel. The savings is about $3.4 million. I assume that's per year, John? So substantial money, but again, similarly, you have to look at the higher CapEx costs, including, again, increased costs for storage. But the savings are so compelling that the upfront CapEx is quite minor in the scheme of things. So I know when my colleague Jim talks of this, and sometimes quite passionately, it's always well, what about propane? Everybody got really excited about propane. Who bought a propane vehicle back in the 90s or whenever they were the big thing? I bought my propane truck, I think propane was 9.9 cents per liter, and I think gas was 70 cents a liter or something like that. Well, within about 3 years, propane was over half the price of gas. So there's people saying, well, what about LNG? Is it just going to go down the same route as that? So I guess because we don't have the infrastructure yet, there's always going to be this, it's not going to be mainstream, so there'll probably for some time be incentives to keep the cost differential low. But there's going to be other things that may drive the price up if people flock to this technology as the environmental savior. Might that push things up a little bit? In terms of the technology, we're still in the early days. There's been some great gains by Westport and others. We look quite keenly to what Caterpillar is doing, and others will follow, as I mentioned. But if we can get the storage on the truck and the refueling all sorted out, I think that we're not very far from this at all. So with that,